Hello everyone. Today we'll be talking about hashing, including hash algorithms, hash collisions, and hash tables. Hashing is actually quite an interesting topic because it connects to the security systems, which we'll be learning in a few more semesters maybe. And to know about hashing, we will also know about the how to figure out the codes and how to make ourselves more safe from other potential hackers that can be able to know our password. So first we will know about hashing. So what is hashing? Hashing is a part of a data structure. So it's the same as linked list and binary search tree, AVL tree. It's nearly the same as that. So with hashing, we can search, we can delete, we can insert numbers. But although hashing is used for us to search numbers, just the same as binary search tree or linked list, but however, a binary search tree requires us to go through the whole sequence of arrays, and then we found the number we are searching, and then we go back again. And linked list is also the same thing, which is more difficult than hashing. Hashing just requires us to compile a part of information, a part of data into one file, even though our original file is large, it's megabytes in size, gigabytes in size. It can make us find the file with ease, open the file with ease. So hashing again is the fastest out of all of the available searching data structures, with the time of big O into root of 1, while linked list is O(n) and binary search tree is O to the log of n. The others are quite slow, and hashing compared to the other type of data structure is the fastest of them all. However, hashing has a lot of risks, and you must be careful when you're choosing or storing your passwords. So now we will continue to a hash function. So a hash function is a complicated system. I'm sorry. So it is used for sending files intact. So for example, you want to send a huge file, either it is a document or a zip or anything you want, from one computer to another, but you must keep the files intact without one of the files disappearing or one part disappearing. So what you can do to transfer from one file to another while keeping the files intact is you can, for example, as the files are sending per part, you can search the part and see if it's complete. Then once the part A is complete, you download part B, and then you scan again if it's complete, and then you send part C and send again if it's complete, and it continues on. But that also takes a long process, so we use the hash functions. So a hash function is interesting, as I said before, because if you think about credit cards or barcodes that are hidden, so for example credit cards, you know that the three numbers on the back of a credit card must be hidden, only us can know. Why do you think is that? It's not only because if the others know or can see our three numbers behind the back that they can use our credit card. It's not only that, because a hash number is a huge function. It is used in a lot of examples in daily life. It can be used in credit cards, it can be used in barcodes, it can be used in a lot of things. So for example, in a credit card, it's not only that 16 numbers in the front and 3 numbers on the back. The 3 numbers on the back are there because the 16 numbers are what you get. So for example, if you change one number on the front, the back will also change. So for example, you have a credit card with the number 000 until all of them 16, and the back of the number is 001. So for example, if you change the front from all zeros to, you add, for example, you would change one of the zeros on the front into 1, so 1000000000, and then on the back it won't be, the CZV won't be 001 again. It can be 002, it can be 003. It depends on what the bank has made their algorithm to. So it is a very interesting thing. So also barcodes, for example, the last number of the barcode will also change if the front number of the barcode is different. So a hash algorithm or a hash function is the same as if you change one number on the front, the back will also change. If you change any bit, any byte in the whole file process, the back will also change. The whole function will also change. That is a hash function. So usually a hash is made into 16, 31, or 64 numbers. I'm sorry. Oh, I'm sorry. To counter the hash function, you have 16, 32, not 31, and 64 numbers. So even though they're gigabytes in size, basically you put all of these huge files, these huge megabytes and gigabytes of files, you pound them into a small byte, into a small piece of number that you can use so people can view it. So you see that 16, 32, and 64 piles of numbers or codes are crushed into a single hash code. That hash code is a summary of your file. So for example, you have a document which is large. For example, it is around 500 megabytes. To make it into a hash function, so for example, if you want only yourself to access the file will be pounded as you upload it and you make it secure. It will be pounded and grounded into several numbers. Either it can be 16, 32, or 64. And you cannot make the file go backwards. So for example, if you have already made it into a single file, which is a 62 or 32 or 64-bit file, you cannot make the file go backwards into a large file again. So once that file goes into what it is now, it stays there. Number 2, you cannot pull any data parts once it's been gone to a file. So for example, so once it's been compiled into one file, you cannot remove one part of the data into one of that. So for example, let's say that you have a file which has already been converted into a hash code. You want to take one of the part of the file when it was before it was become a code. You cannot pull that back out. So not once it has become a hash code, it is a signature of the data that contains all the previous separated data. So that signature is only for yours only. You can only view the files, only you, and another people cannot view or cannot see the file or even download the file. Hash algorithms are diverse. It can be anything you want. So now, like, as the time goes on, you know that computers are getting more fast, it's getting more smarter, and you can figure out every single code. You can break any single code with a certain program. So now hash algorithms must be more diverse, it must be more complex, it must be more difficult for other people to crack. But however, a good hash algorithm must also be fast and it must also be good. It can be anything. So we can store all the passwords and data available to make it safe. Every website, every bank account, it has different algorithms. So what are good hash algorithms and what are not good hash algorithms? So let's take an example. Let's say the password for one of your accounts is this 498103. For example, a website would make a hash code of your password to make it safe, so only you can access it. This is a simple yet a very ineffective algorithm for an hash. It would be 4 plus 9 plus 8 plus 1 plus 0 plus 3. So you add all of the code so it becomes a hash code. Now that is very, 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 very terrible. It's not a good hash algorithm. It's not a good hash function, because just to add this all, There are thousands and millions of combinations where you could add, for example, another person's password that can also result in 25. And when that happens, you and that person which has the same hash code will have a hash collision. So if the others can know your hash code, and you can know the other's hash code because you guys have the same hash code, they can figure out your real password and collisions will happen. So what makes a good algorithm good? So number one, we have to look at the speed. So for example, a good hash algorithm, a good hash function has a good speed, so it may be able to read and process a huge amount of file, for example megabytes or gigabytes, at only seconds at most. So 1 second, 2 seconds, 3 seconds at most, but not too fast, because it means that the code will be easier to crack. So it cannot be too long, but it cannot be too fast either, because if it's too long, people will not use it. The longer the hash code it takes to compile, it will take too long and people will not want to find it. But a good hash algorithm would also be fast, but it contains a complex algorithm, so it will process a huge file at a small amount of speed. Number two, the genuinity. So we can change. So a good hash algorithm is when you change even the smallest amount of bit or amount of byte or file in a password or in a document, in the hash code, and the hash number in the end would change. So even the tiniest of change would change the whole algorithm, they change the whole code, so it makes it more rare, so people cannot access your code easily. So, and also a good hash code, a good hash algorithm is an algorithm where you would not have to change where the numbers would be very long and complicated, so you won't have to be mistakenly swapped with other hash codes. That is also called the avalanche effect. So once you change, the others will also change. You can imagine like an avalanche. So a single bit of snow would go far into making an avalanche. It's the same thing. Number three, avoiding hash collisions. So two documents or passwords, or not even two, it may be three, it may be four, it may be five, around the web, it may have the same hash on rare occasions. But however, this also relies on a bad hash, because chances of you finding a hash that has the same as yours is very, very, very rare. It's almost impossible your unless your hash is very, very, very similar to others. But even then, they have another a good hash algorithm would compute the passwords into different files, into different codes. So even if your password and the other's password is similar, or the same, even they could change the password, for example, based on your IP or based on your email address. So they will have a different hash code. So a way to compute this hash collision is, for example, the pigeonhole theorem. So for example, there are 100 pigeonholes, but there are 200 pigeons. So you cannot make 100 of, so you put 100 pigeons into 100 of the pigeonholes. So each of the pigeonhole has one pigeon. But you cannot you must put one of the other remaining 100 pigeons outside into one of the pigeons. So it can happen. So two pigeons in one pigeonhole. So for that, out of all the billions of files and passwords and documents out in the web, we must be able to know how to counter this. So if now hackers can make an artificial hash collision, I'm sorry. By creating an artificial hash collisions, hackers may be able to find out your document and forge it. Now we move on to the hash tables. So let's say that the hash function or algorithm for a certain website is x modular 10. So it can be any website you can think of. Usually every website that keeps their password has a certain hash algorithm that they use for themselves. It may be diverse, so every website will be different, maybe, possibly. it may be the same too, we may never know. So let's say that this website has a hash function of x modular 10. So there are 6 passwords: 14, 11, 6, 2, 15, and 12 for this website alone. Now, you see that there's a hash table, as you see. So there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 boxes, but we don't count it as the first box, second box, third box, fourth box, fifth, sixth, seventh box. We don't count it like that, but we count it as the first box is a 0. It's similar to like an array. So the first container would be 0, the second would be 1, the third would be second, the fourth would be third, etc. So we see that the 14, let's see the first password, 14 modular 10. 14 modular 10 is on the 5th box because it's 4. So we put there on the 5th box, and then 11 modular 10. 11 modular 10 is 1, so it's put on the 1, which is on the 2nd box. And then 6 modular 10 is 6, so we put it on the last box, the 7th box. 2 modular 10 is on the 3rd box because it's 2, so we put it on the 3rd box. And then 15 modular 10 is 6 on the 6th box, which is on 5, number 5. And 12 is on the 3rd box again. So you see that the 2 and the 12 is on the same box. That is not okay. That is called a hash collision. So that means there, person A, which has the hash code 2, and person B, which has the hash code 12, has the same hash collision. So they have the same hash code, so each other can look at the same each other's data, each other's personal information. They can look at that because they have the same hash data, and other people which have the same data can view it too. So that is called a hash collision. So once a hash collision happened, it's dangerous to say the least because other people can do malicious stuff to it. So now we learn more about hash collision. So before I mentioned about artificially creating a hash collision, so other people can create a fake artificial hash collision. So we are able to create an entirely different document. So for example, we have this document where we store our private information, for example, and then it's stored somewhere on a website, and the hash code is, for example, let's say WOX. So you see, there's our real document. The hash is WOX. So by when an evil person creates a fake hash collision, so by creating an artificial one, so they can create exactly a completely different document with completely different contents, but with the same hash. So once they know our hash, they can completely wipe out our document and replace our document with their fake document. So I'm sorry. For example, let's say that we are sending one person to, for example, the FBI. Of course, not only certain people can go into FBI, right? So this person who goes into FBI will have an access code. Their access code is WOX. By creating an artificial hash collision, we can input the another completely different person with a different face, a different personality, for example. We can just input them as long as they have the same access code. And you know that when a completely different person enters the FBI, that's not a good thing because they can steal information, they could destroy the FBI, for example, they could have other evil plans. So it can break any other real hash, and it can make us mistakenly send another content or another file, but on the exterior it looks the exact same and it passed the regulations of the website. Like a good example of this is when you look at a website and you see that you're downloading a file. For example, you're downloading an installer, but once you download it, it's a completely different file, even though it says that it is the installer. So the website passes it as okay, but for example, you download it from a website that has a collection of downloading programs, but you think that it's the file that you downloaded, but once you download it and you view it, it's actually another installer. So these things may happen to you sometimes, and these are called an artificial hash collision. So another person must have put their installer into the installer that other people may want to frequently download, so their program will be downloaded much faster because they're cheating or they're using evil methods. So there are known hash algorithms we use on our daily lives. So the most frequently used is MD5. It is used for a long, long time, but it's now considered broken because it has a lot of collisions. It was used for tens and I think decades because it was back then. It was good. It was fast. It was used to encrypt a lot of files, but now since computers are getting faster and it's getting smarter too, this MD5 is considered broken because you cannot use MD5 anymore. It's just very, 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 very not good. You just can't use it anymore because people now can make artificial hash collisions easily with MD5. You can get a file you think is yours, but it's actually not because of the artificial collision. Now we are using SHA-1. It is a different algorithm than MD5 and it is used for encrypting genuinity, so it is definitely more used and more safe now than MD5, but even then SHA-1 is considered even more dangerous. It's now more, they say there are rumors that it's now prone to a breakage of another code being broken because now computers are getting more fast and more smart. So now people are creating SHA-3, which is not out yet. It's we are still using SHA-1, but it will be used once SHA-1 is proven to be broken. So that is the explanation for hash. Thank you for listening and have a good day.